Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode, we're going to be studying a piece by the established multidisciplinary artist known as niche Novus. This episode, we're going to be talking about harsh texture, sacred spaces, and we're also going to talk about the immense importance of guiding ideals. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, remember it's this lone space of sacred light amidst this kind of relentless urban landscape, right? The viewer's first impression is likely one of shock or awe due to kind of the curious sight before us here, right? You'll notice, of course, the placement and center makes it feel like everything revolves around this center space, right? We see this most evidently through this light on dark contrast, of course. A kind of darker scene is the perfect area to allow that to emphasize, really pop out there. In the context of color, we note this kind of complementary scheme, right? We have this very faint blue light that really conveys itself as white most evidently. But what you'll see, of course, you have this kind of almost it is orange, kind of a yellowish, that really does contrast against that blue. So complementary color scheme kind of striking together instantly, right? What you'll also notice is kind of industrial nature of this setting. It's absolutely stunning, and it's really not going to miss it here. In my opinion, it's one of the most definitive elements of this work as well. It's incredibly harsh. We kind of go to this sacred space just to escape the grime around us here, right? What you'll also notice is a brilliant sense of texture, whether it's these kind of these molten tones or these rigid builds as well. And then we go in here, it feels a lot more delicate, but of course you also have that rigid tone of that kind of ornate temple as well. All very important when we're looking at this work. There is a pretty clear contrast within that, right? You have the kind of harsh industrial grime, and then within you have a much more kind of sacred or cleanse or sterile space, if you will, a lot more sacred and a lot more clean there. I was talking about this harsh industrial energy within the work at hand. What I also think is a definitive element is the impact of light, right? It's almost as if light is one of the main subjects here as well, because our eye is drawn to this space, and of course, the light is one of the most defining elements that separates it from the greater area environment. So incredibly important here. It creates a very clear border, almost like this very thick concrete that separates the two spaces there. So there really is no doubt in sight that they are two very separate spaces. What you may notice in the kind of far right region of the canvas is this lone figure who appears to be watching this scene here. All we have is this kind of darker silhouette. So it's hard to say who or what our subject is, but it appears they're kind of looking over at this candid view, right? Kind of almost like a Batman view, if you will, kind of looking over the urban landscape in retrospection or observation. So, maybe this is kind of the outsider looking in, the outsider who is in the area of the grime in the industrial landscape, but far within, of course, is that sacred space of amazing light there. Incredibly important when we're looking at this work. There is a kind of candid element to that, which I think is quite striking. And another element within this work is quite striking are these four sharks, right? They have so many different areas of symbolism. Sometimes it's knowledge, curiosity, and then they are also predator beasts as well. So perhaps our subject is kind of dealing with their demons, if you will, and they're in this sacred space to try and cleanse themselves of that. It's hard to say exactly what's happening here. These kind of encircling sharks certainly do catch our eye. And so we do see this very large subject, especially compared to, say, the size of our subject here. The subject is just massive, right? And it appears that they're kind of kneeling before a temple and worshiping or praying in a way here. It's very interesting, right? Which you'll see, of course, the temple far within the composition reads most reminiscent of, say, a Hindu or an Islamic mosque. And what I mean by that, of course, when we talk about the Hindu temple, you have this kind of peak, that's kind of the mountain of Meru, and then around here, well, I guess, Hindu in a lot of ways does separate these sacred spaces from the outside world. What this reminds me of most is actually the mosque at Cordoba. So I talked about this, the idea of kind of a Hinduism, because I see a lot of areas of the kind of design within that. But when we talk about separating the kind of sacred space from the outside world, there really is no better example than the mosque at Cordoba. So you'll see, of course, a clear separation from the city around. And then once you get in here, you are within a sacred space. You're trying to cleanse or prepare yourself for the divine destination that you are reaching. So I kind of see that within this here as well. Of course, you have these sacred spaces within the center that's in direct contrast and juxtaposition to the kind of molten, relentless outside world, right? So you could draw so many different ideals here, whether it's, focused on your thing and trying to drown out all the noise. Stunning piece here. Absolutely love those insights. Whether it's, of course, being focused outside Whether it's being focused on one certain things, you kind of drown out the outside world, or even, reaching a divine destination where you finally can kind of see the light, or you have some certain insights that really help you as well. There's so many different metaphors you could draw here. I'm really curious, what do y'all see when you view this piece? There's so many different things you could draw here, and I'm really interested in what y'all see. So I'm not sure if I mentioned, but this work is a digital rendering, so it was created in a digital rendering program. If I'm correct, this is going to be Blender, so of course allows you to create incredibly immersive environments, very realistic and very cinematic, if you will, as well. So absolutely stunning. Always love to study a piece such as this. Really hope y'all enjoyed today. If y'all did, go check out the original artist Niche Novus, doing some amazing stuff in multiple different mediums, right? We talked about so many different things today, from light, the borders, this kind of candid figure watching, right? The digital rendering, guiding ideals, sacred spaces, Hindu temples, Islamic mosques, so many different things we hit on today. I truly hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all did, go check out the original artist. Like I said, always doing some amazing stuff. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.